The rescue. The research facility on Vaden shuddered as another tremor tore through the planet's unstable crust. Dr. Nova Blackwell steadied herself against a lab bench, watching as her colleagues rushed for the emergency shuttles. Klaxons wailed through the compound, their urgent cry competing with the rumble of collapsing structures nearby. All personnel evacuate immediately. Geological instability has reached critical levels. This is not a drill, announced the automated system in multiple languages. Nova grabbed her emergency pack and joined the stream of researchers flooding toward the hangar bay. The United Galactic Science Initiative had established this outpost to study Vaden's unique ecosystem. But no one had predicted the sudden tectonic shifts that now threatened to tear the facility apart. As she rounded a corner, a faint sound caught her attention, something distinctly non-mechanical amid the chaos. Nova hesitated, then broke away from the evacuation route. Following the sound down a narrow corridor, she found a small storage room with its door jammed partially open. Inside, huddled beneath a fallen shelf, was a child. Not human, but Serophian, one of the native species of this sector. The boy's pale blue skin was marred with scrapes, and his large, multifaceted eyes reflected terror as they fixed on Nova. "It's okay," she said softly, kneeling beside him. "I'm here to help. Do you understand me?" The translator at her wrist converted, her words into the musical clicks and whistles of Serophian language. The boy nodded tentatively. "I'm Nova. What's your name?" "Thalir," he responded, his voice barely audible through the translator. "My caretaker. She went to get supplies. Then everything started shaking." Another violent tremor rocked the facility, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. They had minutes, perhaps seconds. "We need to go now, Thalir. Can you walk?" The boy tried to stand but crumpled with a cry of pain. Nova quickly assessed his injury, a badly twisted ankle, possibly broken. Without hesitation, she scooped him up, surprised at how light he felt despite being almost 10 in Earth years. "Hold tight," she instructed, securing him against her chest as she navigated back toward the evacuation route. The main corridor had partially collapsed during her detour. Nova cursed under her breath, scanning for an alternative exit. The emergency map on her wrist device indicated a maintenance tunnel that would lead to the auxiliary landing pad. "We're taking a shortcut," she told Thalir, trying to keep her voice steady as she ducked into a narrow service passage. The boy clung to her, his small hands gripping her uniform tightly. "The Earth is angry today," he whispered. "The elders warned us not to let the off-worlders disturb the sacred grounds." Nova felt a pang of guilt. The UGSI had conducted extensive surveys before building the facility, but perhaps they had missed something important to the Serophians. They emerged onto the auxiliary pad just as the last shuttle was preparing for liftoff. Nova sprinted across the tarmac, waving frantically. "Wait, one more, plus a child." The shuttle pilot spotted them and held the departure. As they climbed aboard, Nova noticed the absence of any other Serophians. "Where's your family?" she asked Thalir as they strapped into the last available seats. "My family serves the Temple of Healing," he replied, his multifaceted eyes blinking rapidly. "I was here to learn about off-world medicine." The shuttle lurched upward, accelerating hard to escape Vaden's gravitational pull. Through the viewport, they watched as fissures spread across the surface of the planet below, consuming the research facility in a matter of moments. Nova held Thalir's small hand as the boy trembled beside her. "You're safe now," she promised. "I'll help you find your people." She couldn't know then how their fates had become intertwined in that moment of crisis, or that 15 years later, their roles would dramatically reverse. Paths diverged 15 years past like stardust through an hourglass. Nova Blackwell stared at her reflection in the polished surface of her apartment window, barely recognizing the woman who gazed back. At 42, she still maintained the athletic build of her field days, but her once vibrant auburn hair now featured prominent streaks of silver, and fine lines marked the corners of her eyes, testament to years spent squinting at specimens under alien suns. Her apartment on Newt. Geneva Station orbited Earth at a comfortable distance, offering panoramic views of humanity's homeworld. It should have felt like a triumphant homecoming after her latest 3-year expedition to the Cygnus Reach. Instead, it felt like exile. "Diagnostic complete," announced the medical unit, hovering beside her bed. "Condition unchanged. Recommended course, continued rest and immunotherapy. Probability of full recovery, 27%. Nova dismissed the unit with a wave, tired of its clinical assessments. The mysterious pathogen she'd contracted on Cygnus IV had baffled Earth's best xenomicrobiologists. It wasn't immediately life-threatening, but it was steadily degrading her nervous system. Within a year, she would lose fine motor control. Within 2, cognitive decline would begin. Her communicator chimed, displaying Director Harlow's name. Nova sighed before answering. "Dr. Blackwell." Harlow's stern face appeared in hologram form. "The board has reviewed your petition to return to active field status." "And?" Nova straightened, though she already knew the answer. "Denied. Your condition remains too unpredictable. However, we'd like you to consider heading our new xenobiology training program. Your experience would be invaluable to the next generation." The conversation ended quickly after Nova's reluctant agreement. Teaching wasn't fieldwork, but it was better than being shelved entirely. She moved to her workstation, scrolling through research updates from across the galaxy, trying to ignore the tremor in her hands. Across the galaxy, on Serophia's northern continent, Thalir knelt before the sacred pool within the Temple of Healing. At 25, he had grown into his heritage, his blue skin now deeper in hue, almost indigo, marked with the luminescent patterns that indicated his rank among the healing order. His tall, slender frame moved with deliberate grace as he collected water in a ceremonial vessel. "Elder Thalir," a young acolyte approached, bowing respectfully. "The council awaits your presence." Thalir nodded, rising smoothly. The title still felt strange. He was young to be considered an elder, but his unique perspective, shaped by his rescue and subsequent time with off-worlders, had accelerated his advancement within the order. In the council chamber, 7 senior healers sat in a semicircle, their faces serene but their eyes sharp with wisdom. First, Elder Kethrin gestured for Thalir to join them. "We have received a communication from the human settlement on Proxima Centauri," Kethrin began. "They seek our assistance with an outbreak affecting their colony." Thalir inclined his head. "The accord permits sharing of basic remedies, but not the sacred practices." "Indeed," another elder agreed. "Yet this request comes with additional information. The human xenobiologist who once saved you, Nova Blackwell, has contracted an illness that defies their medicine." Thalir's composed demeanor faltered momentarily. "Nova, she's ill?" "Gravely so, according to their reports," Kethrin confirmed. "The humans do not make the connection between you and her. They simply seek our general assistance. But the coincidence cannot be ignored." A murmur passed through the council. Serophians placed great significance on such alignments of fate. The ancient texts speak of the symbiosis, the sacred bond that can transfer healing energy between souls connected by destiny, Thalir said quietly. "Such a ritual has not been performed with an off-worlder in 10 generations. Yet you have studied it extensively," noted Kethrin. "Your fascination with this forbidden knowledge has not gone unnoticed." Thalir met the first elder's gaze evenly. "I believe our ancestors understood that healing transcends species. The universe connects all living beings in ways we've only begun to comprehend." The council chamber fell silent as the elders exchanged meaningful glances. Finally, Kethrin spoke again. "The council has deliberated on this matter before your arrival. We believe this situation represents a test of our traditions versus our compassion." The first elder's voice softened. "She saved you when you were but a child. Do you wish to attempt to return this gift?" Thalir closed his eyes briefly, remembering the human woman who had carried him to safety as their world crumbled around them. Her face had stayed with him through the years, not just in memory but in dreams that felt more like visions. "I do," he answered, his voice resonant with certainty. "But the symbiosis requires preparation, sacred materials, All will be provided, Catherine assured him. But understand this. If you leave Serophia on this mission, you do so alone. If you perform the ritual, you risk your position within the Order. The path ahead will not be easy. Thalir bowed deeply. The true healer does not seek the easy path but the necessary one. As he left the council chamber to prepare for his journey, Thalir touched the small scar on his wrist, a permanent reminder of the day Nova had bound his injured arm during their escape from Vaden. He had never expected to see her again. Now, their fates appeared to be converging once more, like twin stars drawn together across the vast emptiness of space. He only hoped he would reach her in time. The journey home, the interstellar transport Artemis cut through the void, its quantum drives humming with power as it carried passengers from dozens of worlds. In the observation deck, Thalir stood alone, watching the hypnotic swirl of stars outside. His tall frame drew curious glances from human travelers, but most kept their distance. Serophians rarely ventured beyond their sector. Thalir wore traditional traveling robes that concealed most of his indigo skin, though the luminescent patterns on his face still pulsed gently with his heartbeat. Around his neck hung a pendant containing sacred water from Serophia's healing pools, and secured in his quarters was a case of rare botanical elements. Everything needed for the symbiosis ritual. First time to Earth? The voice startled him. From his contemplation, Thalir turned to find a human woman with silver-streaked black hair and the insignia of a merchant captain on her jacket. Is it that obvious? He asked, his translator rendering his musical language into standard human speech. You have that look. Part wonder, part terror. She smiled, extending her hand. Captain Joanna Tanaka. I run supply routes through the Orion Arm. Thalir, he replied, carefully shaking her hand in the human custom. And yes, first journey to your homeworld. Business or pleasure? Thalir hesitated. Neither. I seek someone who once helped me. She's ill. Joanna's expression softened. A friend? I was a child when we met. She saved my life during the Vaden collapse. I doubt she remembers me. Yet you're crossing 12 light years for her. Joanna leaned against the observation rail. That's quite a debt to repay. Thalir's multifaceted eyes reflected the starlight. My people believe that when lives intersect in moments of crisis, a bond forms that transcends ordinary connections. We call it Shaivira, soul memory. We have a similar concept, Joanna said. Quantum entanglement on a spiritual level. Their conversation was interrupted by the ship's announcement of their approach to the Sol System's jump gate. Joanna excused herself to prepare for arrival, leaving Thalir alone with his thoughts once more. 3 days later, Thalir stood in the antiseptic hallway of New Geneva Station's medical facility, his heart racing as he presented his credentials to the security AI. Purpose of visit? The system inquired. I'm here to see Dr. Nova Blackwell. I have specialized medical knowledge that may assist with her condition. After a moment of processing, the AI responded, Dr. Blackwell is not accepting new consultations at this time. Thalir felt a surge of frustration. He had come too far to be stopped by an automated system. Please inform Dr. Blackwell that Thalir of Serophia is here, from the Vaden Research Facility. Minutes passed before the doors slid open, revealing not Nova but a stern-faced physician with a name badge identifying him as Dr. Westfield. Dr. Blackwell is resting, Westfield stated flatly. She mentioned your name, but I'm not convinced your presence is beneficial to her treatment plan. With respect, Thalir replied, struggling to keep his tone even. I represent the Serophian Healing Order. Our methods have successfully treated conditions similar to hers. We've reviewed the Serophian medical database provided through the Galactic Medical Exchange, Westfield countered. Nothing suggests your people have encountered this particular pathogen. Not all our methods are in your database, Thalir said quietly. Some are traditional. Westfield's expression hardened. Dr. Blackwell is a scientist. I doubt she'd be interested in alien folk remedies. Before Thalir could respond, a weak voice called from behind Westfield. Let him in, Marcus. Both turned to see Nova Blackwell, standing in the doorway of her room, supporting herself against the frame. Thalir barely recognized her. The vibrant woman from his memories now appeared gaunt, her skin pallid, and her movements unsteady. "Nova," Westfield began. "You should be resting." "It's my treatment, my choice," she interrupted, her gaze fixed on Thalir. "I want to hear what he has to say." Reluctantly, Westfield stepped aside. As Thalir approached, he noticed Nova studying his face intently. "You've grown," she said simply. "It has been 15 years, Thalir replied. Nova gestured toward her room. "Come in. Tell me why you're really here." Inside her private medical suite, Nova eased herself into a chair, motioning for Thalir to sit opposite her. Medical monitors beeped softly in the background, tracking her deteriorating condition. "The boy I remember had a broken ankle and was terrified of leaving his planet," Nova said. "Now you're a healer?" "An elder in the healing order," Thalir confirmed. "The youngest in several generations. And you've traveled across the galaxy because—" Thalir met her gaze directly. "Because there is a way to heal you, but it requires something beyond conventional medicine. My people call it the symbiosis, a ritual that can transfer healing energy between connected souls." Nova's scientific skepticism was evident in her expression. "Connected souls? You saved my life on Vaden," Thalir said simply. "Such moments create bonds that persist beyond time and space. The ritual leverages this connection." "That sounds like mysticism, not medicine," she replied, though without dismissal. "The distinction is not so clear among my people." Thalir leaned forward. "The universe operates according to principles that transcend our limited understanding. Your own quantum physicists acknowledge that observation affects reality. Is it so different to suggest that profound connections between beings might influence cellular regeneration?" Nova studied him for a long moment. "What exactly would this ritual involve?" "A synchronization of our biorhythms, facilitated by compounds from my world. It would create a temporary symbiotic link between us, allowing my system to guide yours toward healing." "Side effects?" Thalir hesitated. "The process is intimate, and not without risk to both participants." "Risk to you?" Nova frowned. "Why would you take such a risk for someone who's essentially a stranger?" Thalir's luminescent patterns pulsed more intensely. "Because in my dreams for 15 years I've seen your face. Because when I meditate at the sacred pool, it's your voice I hear in the waters. Because my people believe that when one life saves another, their fates become intertwined." Nova's scientific mind struggled with his explanation, but the progression of her illness had left her with few options. The tremor in her hands had worsened just in the past week. "Dr. Westfield won't approve this," she said finally. "It need not happen here," Thalir replied. "But it must happen soon. Your condition advances quickly." Nova looked out her window at Earth glowing blue and serene below the station. Then she turned back to Thalir. "Decision made. Tell me what we need to do." Bonds forged. Captain Joanna Tanaka's private shuttle hummed softly as it approached the abandoned research outpost on Luna's far side. The small vessel, designed for discretion rather than comfort, carried 3 passengers. Joanna at the controls, Nova strapped securely in a medical transport chair, and Thalir organizing his sacred materials. "Approaching Artemis Station," Joanna announced. "Decommissioned after the lunar treaty, but environmental systems still functional. Perfect for your unconventional procedure." Nova managed a weak smile. "Thanks for risking your license, Joe." "What? License?" Joanna winked. "Independent captains make independent decisions. Besides, I've seen enough of bureaucratic medicine to know when alternatives deserve consideration." The shuttle docked with a gentle shudder. Thalir helped Nova into her exosuit, necessary protection against Luna's harsh environment should the station's systems fail. His own Serophian physiology required additional adaptations, and the ceremonial markings on his face glowed more intensely in the dim light of the shuttle's cabin. "Are you certain about this?" he asked Nova quietly. She met his gaze, her once bright eyes now clouded with pain. My latest scans give me 3 months before neural degradation becomes irreversible. I've tried every approved treatment in human space. She adjusted her suit with trembling hands. Sometimes science requires a leap of faith. Inside the abandoned station, dust particles danced in the emergency lighting that Joanna activated. The air smelled stale but breathable. They selected the former medical bay as their ritual space, appropriate both practically and symbolically. I'll monitor station systems from the control room, Joanna said, sensing their need for privacy. The comms are open if you need me. After she left, Thalir began transforming the sterile room. From his case, he withdrew a shallow basin crafted from polished stone, filling it with the sacred water from Seraphia. Around it, he arranged 7 crystalline structures that caught the light, refracting it into shimmering patterns across the walls. The basin represents the sacred pool of our temple, he explained as he worked. The crystals will amplify and direct the energies we generate, Nova observed with scientific curiosity despite her skepticism. Your people combine technology with ritual? We see no distinction, Thalir replied. All is energy, expressed in different forms. From another compartment, he removed several small vials containing liquids of various colors. These extracts will facilitate the synchronization between our systems. Some will be applied externally, others consumed. Nova raised an eyebrow. You're not planning to drug me into believing I'm healed, are you? Thaler's expression remained solemn. The compounds don't create illusions. They temporarily dissolve the boundaries between separate beings, allowing for true symbiosis. Like a controlled parasitic relationship. More like a dance between 2 autonomous systems that momentarily move as one. As preparations continued, Nova studied Thalir. Not as a patient viewing a healer, but as a scientist observing a fascinating subject. The boy she'd rescued had grown into a being of grace and purpose. His movements were precise yet fluid, his expression concentrated but serene. Why did you become a healer? She asked suddenly. Thalir paused. After Vaden, I spent 6 months in a human medical facility before returning to my people. I observed how your doctors worked, their compassion alongside their technology. When I returned home, I brought those observations with me. So I influenced your path? Profoundly, he acknowledged. Though my elders would say the path was always there, waiting for events to reveal it. When the preparations were complete, Thalir dimmed the lights until only the glow from the crystals illuminated the room. He gestured for Nova to sit opposite. Him, the basin between them? Remove your outer garments, he instructed clinically. The compounds must contact skin directly. Nova complied, stripping down to the medical undergarments she wore beneath her jumpsuit. In the crystalline light, the progression of her illness was starkly visible, the tracery of darkened veins spreading across her shoulders and neck. Evidence of the pathogen's advance through her nervous system. Thalir removed his ceremonial robe, revealing his indigo skin with its complex pattern of luminescent markings. In the dim light, they pulsed with his heartbeat, creating hypnotic waves of subtle light. Your markings, Nova observed. They weren't like that when you were young. They develop with age and spiritual growth, he explained. Each pattern is unique to the individual. He opened one of the vials and poured a small amount of iridescent liquid into his palm. I will apply this to the affected areas. It may feel unusual, but shouldn't cause pain. As his fingers touched her skin, Nova flinched. Not from discomfort, but from an unexpected sensation of warmth that spread from the point of contact. The liquid seemed to sink into her skin immediately, leaving a faint glow that matched the color of Thalir's markings. The second step requires mutual consumption, Thalir continued, opening another vial containing a deep purple fluid. He poured half into a small cup, offering it to Nova. This will initiate internal synchronization. Nova hesitated, her scientific mind making one last attempt at rational objection. What exactly will this do to me? It will open your perception to the energetic currents that flow between all living things, Thalir answered. For most humans, These perceptions remain dormant. The extract temporarily awakens them. She accepted the cup, studying its contents. A psychoactive compound? It affects consciousness, yes, but not as a hallucinogen, rather as a key that unlocks doors already present within you. Nova took a deep breath and drank. Thaler consumed his portion immediately after. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. They sat in silence, the only sound their breathing gradually synchronizing without conscious effort. Then Nova gasped as sensations flooded her awareness. Not just physical feelings, but perceptions that defied categorization. "I can feel you," she whispered, eyes wide. "Not touch, but your presence, like a pattern of light." Thaler nodded. "The final stage can begin. Place your hands in the basin with mine." As their hands submerged in the sacred water, the luminescent patterns on Thaler's skin intensified dramatically. To Nova's altered perception, they seemed to extend beyond his physical form, reaching toward her like tendrils of living light. "Now we forge the bond," Thaler said, his voice taking on a resonant quality. "Open yourself to the connection between us, the thread that has existed since Vaden." The memory of that day suddenly surfaced in Nova's mind with startling clarity. Not just visual recollection, but every sensation. The ground trembling beneath her feet, the weight of the child in her arms, the desperate rush toward safety. Simultaneously, she experienced Thaler's memory of the same moment. His terror, his pain, and most vividly, his perception of her as a being of incredible strength and compassion. "The bond already exists," Thaler continued. "We simply acknowledge and strengthen it. Allow the energy to flow between us." Nova felt something shift within her, a barrier dissolving. Suddenly, she wasn't just perceiving Thaler's presence, she was experiencing aspects of his consciousness. Fragments of his life flashed through her awareness. His return to Sorophia, years of study, moments of doubt and triumph, and always the memory of her carrying him to safety. More surprisingly, she felt his current emotions, his concentration on the ritual, his concern for her well-being and something deeper, a profound connection that transcended simple gratitude. As their minds intertwined more completely, Thaler guided his healing energy toward the pathogen ravaging her system. Nova experienced this as waves of coolness flowing through her inflamed nerves, a sensation simultaneously foreign and deeply familiar. "The symbiosis is complete," Thaler whispered, though his lips hadn't moved. The words formed directly in Nova's mind. "Our systems now recognize each other as extensions of self. My immunity becomes yours." In the control room, Captain Joanna monitored unusual energy readings emanating from the medical bay, her expression a mixture of concern and wonder. Whatever was happening between the xenobiologist and the alien healer, it was generating patterns unlike anything her instruments had ever recorded. Beyond the stars, the journey back to Earth passed in silence. Nova sat beside the viewport of Joanna's shuttle, watching stars streak by, her hands steady for the first time in months. Beside her, Thaler rested, his luminescent markings dimmed to barely perceptible pulses, evidence of the energy he had expended during their ritual. Medical scans upon their return to New Geneva Station confirmed what Nova already felt. The pathogen was retreating, its deadly advance halted by whatever mysterious process had occurred in that abandoned lunar outpost. Dr. Westfield's bewilderment quickly gave way to cautious optimism as repeat tests showed consistent improvement. "I can't explain it," he admitted, studying the results. "By all measures, your nervous system is regenerating. The pathogen's molecular structure has somehow been altered." Nova offered no explanation, and Westfield didn't press. Some mysteries, she had learned, were better left unexplored by conventional science. In her apartment, Nova found Thaler on the balcony, gazing at Earth below. The ritual had left an indelible connection between them, not telepathy exactly, but a constant awareness of each other's presence, emotional states, even fragments of thought. "You've received communication from your council," she said, sensing his unease. Thalir nodded without turning. They know what I've done. The symbiosis with an off-worlder. It breaks our most sacred traditions. What will happen to you? Exile, most likely. I will lose my position in the Order. His voice remained calm, accepting. They fear what this means, that our sacred healing is not exclusive to our species. Nova moved beside him, their shoulders nearly touching. I could speak to them, explain. It wouldn't change their decision. Finally, he turned to face her. But I don't regret my choice. The depth of his sacrifice struck her fully then. He had given up his world, his calling, everything that defined his existence to save her. The weight of such a gift seemed impossible to bear. What will you do now? She asked. I don't know. The bond between us is permanent, Nova. Distance will strain but not break it. His multifaceted eyes studied her face. Perhaps that is my new purpose. To understand what this connection means, not just for us, but for the future of interspecies healing. Nova thought of her own career, her research. The experience had transformed her understanding of xenobiology. What she had witnessed, had participated in, challenged every scientific principle she'd built her life upon. The United Galactic Science Initiative is establishing a new division, she said slowly, investigating phenomena that exist at the intersection of different species' consciousness. They've asked me to lead it. Understanding dawned in Thalir's expression. You want me to join you. As a full partner, not a research subject. Nova held his gaze. We've experienced something unprecedented, a true symbiosis between human and Serophian. That knowledge shouldn't be lost or hidden away. Outside the viewport, Earth rotated serenely while distant stars beckoned. The universe suddenly seemed both vastly larger and infinitely more connected than either had previously imagined. My people have a saying, Thalir said quietly. When two lives save each other, a new path is formed among the stars. Nova smiled, feeling the resonance of his words through their shared bond. Then let's follow it and see where it leads. Together they stood at the threshold of something entirely new, not quite human, not quite Serophian, but a bridge between worlds that had once seemed impossibly distant. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them as neither had ever expected, bound by a connection that transcended both science and spirituality, forged in the space between stars that only they could navigate. The end was merely a beginning.